Good evening. I'm Corey Newton, and unfortunately, tonight I'm going to release the negative health effects associated with the chemicals that I analyzed in the nuclear, biological, and chemical contamination report on May 21st. First, I'm going to release the summary of findings contained in that report. And I would just ask that you keep in mind and keep this in the context of the three Superfund sites, as well as the Cap landfill, which Zone Leak 2 is leaking through. We're going to go ahead and, unfortunately, release these results. So I'm going to read the summary of findings to get us all oriented, and I'm going to go through each individual negative health effect associated with these chemicals. And in my summary of findings, I've released the highest levels that I found in the report. They're every single well out of 25 that I analyzed had elevated levels of each of these. There's a couple of exceptions for nitrogen that wasn't mentioned. I think there was 2 to 3 out of 25 where the level of uranium was less than the acceptable level. So here we go, summary of findings. This is page either 3, 4, or 5 out of the NBC report. The highest level of arsenic found in a domestic supply well right across from the former landfill, 100,000 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of barium found was in a domestic supply well, 56,000 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of beryllium was found in a non-community supply well, 3,000 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of cadmium was found in a domestic supply well, 7,000 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of chromium was found in a non-community supply well, 12,000 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of uranium was found in a monitoring well, 4,000 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of nitrogen was found in a domestic supply well, 480 times the acceptable limit. The highest level of thallium was found in a non-community supply well, 10,000 times the acceptable limit. So there's going to be a link to this fact sheet that I released around 21st of May. And there's another fact sheet specifically on thallium that I'm going to provide a link to. So these, I'm reading right off the links I'm giving to you. So this is totally, all of this is cross-referenced with the Environmental Protection Agency. This is all EPA. I'm just reading what I gathered from the EPA. So arsenic, we had 100,000 times the acceptable level. I'm going to read what arsenic will do to you. What health effects are associated with exposure to arsenic in drinking water? In most drinking water sources, inorganic form of arsenic tends to be more predominant than organic forms. Inorganic arsenic in drinking water can exert toxic effects after acute, short-term, or chronic, long-term exposure. Although acute exposures to high doses of inorganic arsenic can cause adverse effects, such exposures do not occur from public water systems in the U.S. Blah, blah, blah. I'm talking private wells. Cancerous effects: skin, bladder, lung, kidney, nasal passages, liver, and prostate cancer. So if you drink arsenic for a prolonged period of time above the acceptable levels, you're going to get skin cancer, bladder cancer, lung cancer, kidney cancer, nasal cancer, liver, and prostate cancer. Non-cancerous effects: negative cardiovascular, pulmonary, immunological, your immune system breaks down, neurological, your brain, your spine breaks down, and endocrine, which I think is your pancreas. Don't quote me on that, I'm not a doctor. Barium. Highest level of barium, 56,000 times. Some people who drink water containing barium will, well in excess of the maximum contaminant level for many years, could experience an increase in their blood pressure. What are the effects of having high blood pressure for many years? You're drinking excess quantities of barium for 5, 10 years. High blood pressure is going to cause other problems in your system, is it not? What are beryllium's health effects? Some people who drink water containing beryllium, well in excess of the maximum contaminant level for many years, could develop intestinal lesions. Intestinal lesions. Cadmium. What are cadmium's health effects? People who drink water containing cadmium well in excess of the maximum contaminant level for many years could experience kidney damage. Chromium. What are chromium health effects? Chromium-3 is a nutritionally essential element in humans and is often added to vitamins as a dietary supplement. Chromium-3 has relatively low toxicity and would be a concern in drinking water only at very high levels of contamination. Chromium was found, the highest level of chromium found 12,000 times the acceptable limit. People who use water containing total chromium in excess of the maximum contaminant level over many years could experience allergic dermatitis. How can uranium affect people's health? Uranium was found 4,000 times the acceptable limit was the highest reading I found. Intakes of uranium exceeding EPA standards can lead to increased cancer risk, liver damage, or both. Long-term chronic intakes of uranium isotopes in food, water, or air can lead to internal irradiation, chemical toxicity. Nitrate. Nitrate agricultural runoff, pesticide runoff, as well as leaching septic systems due to the leak. Nitrate, the highest nitrate level I found at 25 water sources was 480 times the acceptable level. So let's get into nitrate. What are nitrate's health effects? Infants below 6 months who drink water containing nitrate in excess of the maximum contaminant level could become seriously ill, and if untreated, may die. Symptoms include shortness of breath and blue baby syndrome. Final negative health effects I'm going to explain is thallium. Highest level of thallium was found in a non-community well, 10,000 times the acceptable level. EPA specifically has a 3-page fact sheet on thallium. Thallium has a potential to cause the following health effects for long-term exposures at levels above the maximum contaminant levels. Changes in blood chemistry, damage to liver, kidney, intestinal and testicular issues, hair loss. cancer. No evidence that thallium has potential to cause cancer. So those are the health effects of what each chemical does individually. My question is, what happens when these chemicals interact? What happens with these chemicals, nuclear and chemicals, plus the biological elements of the nitrate causing the E. coli and the coliform? What happens when all of these interact? What happens in your kitchen? What happens in your kitchen when you mix baking soda and vinegar? What happens? It's explosive, is it not? What happens when you mix bleach with ammonia and you're cleaning your toilet? You may end up dead. Will you not? So if you're going to mix vinegar and baking soda, and you're going to mix bleach and ammonia, what the hell is going to happen when you mix chromium and uranium with nitrogen and thallium? What's going to happen? If baking soda and vinegar can have a bad reaction, you're going to tell me cadmium and barium? How the hell is that going to react? How is it going to react? And I'm sure there's people out there who's got medical records this thick who can answer those questions. And if you do, I understand your privacy. We need you to start sharing it. We need you to start sharing these results of what happens when you're exposed to this stuff in long term. Because that's the only thing that's going to push it over the top. I spent the day in the community taking video that was substandard and audio that was substandard. Because I had technical difficulties with this thing. My LCD screen doesn't work and I can't recalibrate it. So I purchased this little piece of junk. Brought you the video for Zone Leagues 2, 3, and 4, and as soon as I can correct this problem, I will, and get you high-speed video and audio. But I also spent the rest of the day in the community sharing my findings and my results with people in the community. And many of them gave me such good, constructive criticism and such good advice. And they said, Corey, you need to start talking about the health effects of this. You need to start explaining to people the health effects. So I am, because I've listened to the people in the community. And then everybody's cheering me on. No one has told me, how dare you? No. Everybody said, thank you. Continue what you're doing. And we think we have, and I'm listening. I'm taking the feedback from the community, and they want me to advance this. And people know that this is wrong. This contamination is wrong, and they want me to advance it. And I say, you need to release a health effect. So I will. I'll continue to release any other health effects I can get. And if you have loved ones or friends in the nuclear, biological, and chemical attack zone, you need to share this information with them. And we need them to share the information with us. And if they have medical records indicating high blood pressure for so many years that resulted in something else, or intestinal lesions that resulted in something else, or cardiovascular and neurological disorders from exposure to these contaminants, and they got a medical record this thick, we need them to stand up and speak out. And if they don't do it publicly, they can do it on a down low, and I'll release it for them. I ask that you please support the effort and get this information out to the people who need it the most. Thanks again. It's Saturday night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.